So I was explaining to one of my good friends, I used to work with this friend, and I was explaining how foreign exchange big time investors, the big portfolios, I was explaining some of the theories on how the foul play works. So I was talking about George Floyd being a great example of having high potential of being one of these type of social unrest events that most likely had some funding behind it in some manner. Who knows from which direction? Did they fund Floyd? Sometimes they funded Floyd. Sometimes they fund Floyd and the police. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes the whole thing's entirely funded. Sometimes there's only one person that gets funded, and then it goes to the media, which is obviously funded. But the part I was trying to tell my friend was that, I was asking if you'd ever heard of the pallets of bricks being dropped off at some of these protests. I'm like, no one goes to the protests and is planning on ruining small businesses and looting and burning anything down, right? Went on to explain that's somebody. Whenever that happens, that's because somebody has put enough money behind creating such social unrest. So, a great example of why that is most likely correct when my friend was trying to say that doesn't happen. That's just conspiracy theories, It's how do you see these big accounts making these big time money moves in the foreign exchange market? So they do the social unrest to devalue the currency. They can make their moves, and all of a sudden all these weird backdoor moves become possible. All these investment moves become possible. They can confidently tell their affiliates to make moves at just the right moment. It's all how they orchestrate everything. And it's like, you didn't hear about the BRICS. You saying the BRICS was a lie, and that no one fuels these protests. Okay, well, here's a great example of how it is fueled, right? So for the racism one, there was definitely some social unrest, but I want to say they were going to keep it peaceful, because it's not like it was the end of the world when MLK was walking around. I don't think there was. I want to say it wasn't as much of a devastating hit to just small businesses, and not as much looting, right? And shooting of each other, because we had black people shooting black security guards that were guarding pawn shops. Come on. How are you going to kill another black man at gunpoint over a pawn shop robbery during George Floyd riots? That is pathetic. I think that was somewhere near Ohio. It might have even been Ohio. I want to say it was favoring the East Coast, if my memory does not fail me. You can look that up. Pawn shop security guard gets shot by another black guy. Imagine that. This is when I was the one posting numbers regarding George Floyd. I was sticking to the numbers on George Floyd, and I stuck to the numbers on COVID. I was right on both. I was canceled entirely from my career, from Facebook, for saying both. I pointed at the numbers the whole time, and because of that, I was this crazy conspiracy theorist, and I needed to be canceled, of which they did. So I ended up being right about COVID, absolutely. And I know for a fact I'm right about George Floyd because look at Roe versus Wade. People were threatening. People were actually trying to say that Roe versus Wade was going to be worse than George Floyd. People were pissed, and people are pissed about Roe versus Wade. And that's just a great example of how that got overturned, and it was nothing like George Floyd. I mean, sure, you pissed off a bunch of ladies and you expect a bunch of ladies to go out and loot stuff, but that's just it. The civil unrest was at the same level. So then what? Does that prove that black people are just violent? Or, I mean, there's guys that were saying that Roe versus Wade was going to be a problem. It's like, you want to piss off half the country, you're going to see civil unrest. So, I don't know, I guess George Soros didn't see a reason to drop off bricks for Roe versus Wade protests. That's my point, is that if there was industry funding, like Soros, dropping off pallets of bricks at Roe versus Wade overturning, you would have seen the looting and the destroying of neighborhoods. Small businesses getting robbed, all the wrong type of damage to society being inflicted over stuff that's, that's just stuff that we have to deal with as a society eventually. But to respond in the way that we do when there is looting and, damage to neighborhoods and businesses, that is well beyond what it should be, and that's why I say that the people dropping off bricks, on pallets, that's just an example. They do other things. I'm sure there's plenty of other things that just show up or are, accessible randomly. Oh wow, look at this flamethrower, whatever. Just draw a blank, insert any idea. You name it. If they want it to happen, think about being a billionaire, Alright, that's my take. Catch you later. This is 2-1. Out.